Let's begin. Thank you all for being here, and a big hello to everyone. My name's Ajoy Gonzalez, and I head the marketing team here at Capptions. Today's webinar is all about turning your inspection, audit, checklist data into actionable insights with Capptions Direct. So the benefit of this is that you can move from just collecting data into really unlocking its value. Before we dive in, a few quick things to know. The session is being recorded, and we'll send this recording to you via email. We do encourage you to have your cameras on if possible. However, please do have your mics muted. Next, the webinar will include a step-by-step product walkthrough by our customer success manager, Fikila. And of course, at the end, we'll have a Q&A round where you can ask your questions. To do so, please simply drop your questions in the chat below on the bottom right of your screen, and we'll go through them at the end. So without further ado, let's begin. Over to you, Fikila.
Thank you, Joy. Good afternoon again to everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar. Quick introduction, I'm Fikila, and I'm part of the customer success team at Capptions. And I'll be taking you through today's demo-based webinar. A quick introduction on who we are for those of you who are not familiar. So as Capptions, we're a mobile-first workflow automation tool. So we're essentially designed to help you streamline and digitize your compliance as well as your operational workflows. So some of you in the room might have experience through either building your own workflows and templates or through a demo presentation you might have received from one of my colleagues. And you would have witnessed that you can simplify your various processes. A few that could be familiar to you could be your safety inspections, incident reporting, your maintenance inspections, as well as your audit. Some key features that help in facilitating the build of your processes are the customizable workflows. So as you can see on the screen, we have a maintenance process built, and this is something you can essentially build to fit your organization's needs. So you can build a form template, you can build processes that fit the needs that you require. We're mobile friendly. So you're able to perform inspections and complete your tasks at any time and anywhere using your mobile app. And we have real-time insights. So the focus of today's webinar will be digging deeper into the real-time insights. So we allow you the ability to track all incoming data, to be able to monitor your KPIs, as well as to generate actionable reports in order to make informed decisions about the data that's incoming. The platform, lastly, is collaborative in nature. So you're able to assign tasks to various team members as well as across departments. You're able to follow up on your actions and to ensure accountability within your team. So in understanding how your data flows through the platform, we'll be answering some common questions that we get from clients. And the top 5 questions we get commonly is, where can I find my results? So the form has been completed, the workflow is done, report has been generated and sent to all stakeholders. Where do I see my data? What's the difference between your standard dashboarding and your KPI dashboards? How do I export my data into Excel for further analysis? And how do I manage who can view data in the organization? So in providing the walkthrough, we thought it best to bring out a couple of personas. So we'll be looking at the different personas that use the platform, either on a recurring basis or when necessary to look at data particular to specific incidences that are, for example, reported. So we'll dive a little deeper into the type of data most of them would require and how they would need to get access to it. So I tried to break it down into 4 different personas that could be familiar to you. So you might see yourself in one of these personas, but of course, depending on your personal organization structure, the shoe might not fit as tightly. So with data flowing from the bottom up, we have the regular staff, starting from left to right. And they focus in relation to Caption is ensuring that data is inputted into the platform. So whether that is completing tasks, such as your inspections or your observations, whether they're scheduled or an ad hoc basis, all data that comes from these users is essentially very important. And with this type of user, we essentially find that for them, status is what's important. So I've put in my data, what's happening. So who's next up and following up with it, has a follow-up action, if any, been completed, yes or no. So they need to access data might not be as granular as other members within the organization. For example, one level up, we have your HSE department. So for them, the focus would be to review all incoming data. So an observation has been logged, they would be essentially responsible to review the data that's incoming. So has the forms been filled in correctly? Who's filled these forms in? When was a report made? And can they resolve the action immediately, or do they need to then escalate it to your operation manager or to a different HSE colleague? So what's important for them looking into the results of the platform is to be able to see items by status. So to see the different workflows and to understand whether or not tasks have been completed or if they're still in progress. Aging items is also one that's of importance to them, as also how long has an item been left open, why has it been left open, and can it then be solved by someone else? So being able to filter across teams, across people, as well as specific KPIs is of great importance to be able to do on the platform. Next to that, we have our operational and site managers. So for them, it's balancing safety and the operations. So is everyone equipped with the necessary resources to complete their tasks in a safe manner? And our operations ongoing? Is there anything that's halting our operations? And are we effective as an organization in doing so? And essentially also managing escalations. So for them, it's very important to see incidence rates. So how often an incident or an accident is being reported, at which site, and what can we do in order to resolve that or reduce the amount of occurrences within particular sites. So again, quite closely to the HSE department, being able to filter and compare across teams, look at trends and drill down into problematic areas. Up from that, we then have the board members, and for them, it's mostly not so much of a granular view into the data that's being inputted by the different users of the platform, but more so a strategic oversight on the performance of their organizations against their peers. So for them, it will essentially be mainly looking at the overall numbers that we present on the KPI dashboard that is then built, and then how we can improve on those metrics. So looking into the product itself, excuse me for that. So looking at the product itself, we'll start from the bottom up. So your regular staff will mainly, outside of looking at the different tasks tab, they will also be working a lot from their home screen. So we've redesigned the platform. So what better time to also have this webinar and essentially understand what everything means. So from the home screen, we have on the far right-hand side, the start tasks. So these are all the different workflows that are available for me as a user in this organization to start. So depending on what team I'm a part of, I can then see all the workflows that I'm able to manually start, otherwise that work on a schedule. On the left-hand side, we have ongoing tasks. So I can see I have a risk assessment, I have an observation that's still ongoing, And these tasks that are listed here are only tasks that are assigned to me. So as you can see here, this is also an indication that I'm the only person in my organization who can see which tasks are in my task card that I can immediately complete. Down below that, we have the most recent tasks. So the most recent tasks highlight all the activities within the organization itself. So I'm also able to see on a high-level overview what tasks are still in progress, which are already completed, and who needs to then still continue along and ensure that task is completed. On the right-hand side, I have my latest task results. So it's a mini dashboard to me as a member of this organization. I can then see a bird's eye view, how many tasks are in progress. So I can, for example, with this risk assessment, I can see that 2 out of 4 tasks are in progress and 2 are then complete. Same with the vehicle status check. All 25 have been completed and no further action needs to be taken in that regard. And for the observations, I see that 3 are in progress, 3 are in review, and 30 are completed. And already with the 3 that are in progress, I can immediately see that I'm one of the 3 users in my organization that needs to complete a task. So I already know what needs to be done on my end to ensure that we get all of them completed. Looking deeper into the standard dashboards. So these are the standard dashboards that are automatically generated by the system. So how this works is that we have 3 different workflows. So every single workflow that you build and assign to a team, once that workflow is started, a dashboard card is then generated from it. And from this overview, you're able to see, again, how many tasks within this particular workflow are in progress, how many are in review or need to be reviewed, and how many have been completed. In clicking into it, I have more information presented to me. So starting off on the top left-hand corner, I can see that I'm just purely looking at one workflow. And I can see this workflow has been started 36 times. Out of the 36 times, I know that 3 tasks are in progress, 30 have been completed, and 3 have been dismissed. So looking at the tasks in progress, this essentially means that in a workflow, you have multiple tasks that need to be completed by either a user or by the system. And this simply means that some user or multiple users in your organization still have open tasks that they need to complete to ensure that the entire workflow has ended and a report, if need be, has been generated. Looking at the tasks that are dismissed, this essentially means that for whatever reason, a user in your organization has decided not to continue with the task and has dismissed it. This dismissal of a task stops the entire workflow. So no one within the workflow can continue with any other task if there is follow-up tasks, and the entire workflow is essentially halted. What this late means is that, so in a particular workflow, you're able to set deadlines for when a task needs to be completed. So I can start a workflow today, and let's say I have 1 week in order to complete that observation. If I don't complete it within the 1 week, it will then be marked as late. And that's what you'll then see over here. So dismissed and late will all fall under review. And review means someone in the, whether it's the HSE manager or the site manager, needs to then take a look and find out the reason why it's been late or why it's been dismissed. Down below, we have executions over time. And this essentially allows you to see over time how many tasks have been completed versus those that have started. So as we can see here, all 36 tasks have been completed this year. And of course, we do have the 3 that are in progress, and you can see that's in the month of March, as well as the other months over here. Down below, we have the workflow visualization. So this is how the workflow has been built in the back end. And by having this visualization, you can also have a visual aid to understand where your tasks are stuck. So we have a start and end on this workflow. I can see that I have my observation form over here. 31 observations have been reported, and we still have one task that is still left open. Over here, we have the follow-up action. As you can see, here is the title of the form itself. We have the follow-up action completion, and I can see that 30 follow-up actions have been completed, and we still have one that is yet to be completed. We have a review that was done, so 30 times that has been done, and none of them have been rejected. And we have 60 reports that have been generated. Why 60? This is because we have 2 recipients of this report. So that's why the numbers have been built. On the top right corner, we can see that we're on version 5 of this workflow. So each and every time that you edit a workflow and you publish a new one and you assign it to a team, a new version of that workflow is then distributed. So in this particular case, I can see that version 2 of the workflow has been started once, version 3 2 times, version 4 once, and version 5 is the most used workflow, having been started 32 times. So that, also allows me to see with each iteration of the workflow, what has been utilized then the most. Drilling down even further, so as mentioned previously, for the HSE manager as well as the operations manager, maybe to a less degree, it's important for them to be able to review, resolve, and escalate. And in order to do so, they need to have a detailed overview into every single execution that has been provided by the regular staff in this example. So looking at the results overview, again, I have a high-level overview into every single report that has been made across multiple different workflows. So I can see when a workflow has been started. So I can see this particular observation was reported on the 30th of September, for example. It is still in progress. I can see who initiated. So Fikile is the initiator of this workflow, and they are part of team all members. So already I know who to go to, and all members can be the team name that's provided, but it can also be a particular site in a different country, for example. And then next to that, I have the actor. So since this workflow itself is still in progress, that means there are a few tasks within the workflow that still need to be completed. And this actor lets me know who's next in line to complete this task. Next to that, I then have the KPIs. So already from this view, I can understand what is happening within this particular site or this team or this within the user that has reported it. So I already know that an accident has been reported and it's an extreme catastrophe. I know that Fikile is the person who reported it and Amanda is the next person that needs to act on it. So already I have a lot of information presented to me firsthand, and of course I can then drill down deeper into understanding what needs to be done next, whether or not I can solve it myself or if I need to escalate it to a different user. So in doing so, if I look into the details of this particular task, I have my workflow lifecycle. So all of this information that we have at the top, such as the status, the team, the initiator, is what we saw in the previous tab. But in drilling down further into the data, I can then see, this particular workflow was started on the 1st of September. It is now the 30th of September. Why is it essentially still open? I can look at the submission myself. So I can see that an accident was reported. It's been pictured, so all the data has been filled in correctly. This is the location in which it was reported on, and it's an extreme catastrophe that needs to be taken care of. In doing so, I can see that Amanda, the person who's responsible for it, has not done so. As the HSE manager in charge of ensuring that it's done, I can escalate this matter to a different user or reassign it back to myself and take care of the issue and resolve it on my own. So what I can do is I can reassign the task to me, and immediately once I've reassigned the task to myself, I will receive an email notification stating that follow-up action that I need to complete. I'll also have a link to that particular task, so I can access it immediately from my emails. Alternatively, if I have the mobile app installed on my phone, I immediately receive a push notification letting me know that I need to complete this action. So then again, as the HSE manager, I'm able to see detailed results of every single execution that is done within my organization. I'm able to drill down into specific matters. I'm able to view the data that has been inputted, and I'm able to then escalate it to different people within my organization, as well as teams, to ensure that it's then done. Next to that, I am also able to use the filters to also help me drill down into specific reports that I made in order to, again, see if I need to follow up on it or see trends across multiple teams. So I have my various filters that I can use at my disposal. I can filter by date. So if I want to look at a particular point in time and see what has been reported then, that's something I can do. And then I, of course, have preset filters that I can use within the date picker, or I can manually select a date myself. If there's a deadline, unfortunately, in this particular process, we don't have a deadline, but I'm also able to filter according to the deadlines that I've set to see what is still open, maybe in the month of September or the previous month. So then I'm able to follow up on that as well. I can filter, by status. So I can see only the tasks that are in progress, whether they completed, resolved, and the likes. And I can filter according to specific people within my organization. So if I want to filter on all the reports that I personally have done, I can do so, as well as other members within the team. So in doing so, I can filter on a particular workflow. So I can filter down on the observation workflow itself. And for example, I want to filter for those that are in progress. If not, maybe I want a more clearer, filter on a type of observation, for example. I can also do that. So I have the observation workflow, and I want to filter on a KPI name. So for context, the KPI name is a set of KPIs we built in the form itself. So I have multiple questions in my form, and one of them is the type of observation. And then I have a drop-down list on the different types of observations that can be reported on, whether it's an accident, it's a near miss, it's a positive observation. Those are the different options that I have to choose from. So in doing so, I can then also filter on specific values that were chosen. So I can see within my organization how many positive observations have been recorded. And I can also then see how many near misses have been recorded. And I can also, if necessary, and I have multiple different teams, in this case, it has only been assigned to the all members team. But let's say I have different sites, I'm able to compare across sites how many near misses in this particular sites have been recorded versus another site, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is a good place to, again, drill down on specific data and really find the data that is important to you, allowing you to take the necessary actions that need to be taken. So that is the detailed results. And then next to that, we also have a different type of dashboarding, which is then the KPI dashboard. So contrary to the standard dashboarding that we looked at, so if we go back again into this organization will see that this is the standard dashboarding that is produced by the system, and these will remain unchanged. However, if you want a more detailed view into exactly what's happening into your organization, for example, the board wants specific numbers on how many times an observation has been recorded in a particular location, the frequency of it over days, over months, over years. These are all visualizations that you can build depending on the data that is incoming into your organization. So 2 different workflows that you can build out on your own. And as you can see over here, I have a workflow status that will give me an overview in the entirety of the organization, what has been completed, what has been dismissed, what has been in progress. And out of that, I can then be able to drill down into years, months, or days, and I can see the amount of times an unsafe situation was recorded in 2024 versus 2025. Of course, the year hasn't ended yet, but we can already see the stark difference between the year. So this allows you to make comparisons year on year to either see the progress that you have made as an organization, or will shine light on the areas that are of concern and then need greater attention. So this is quite a basic dashboard that has been built, but essentially it gives a high-level overview, understanding of what's going on in your organization, what needs to be looked at closely. And essentially you can take a screenshot of this and present it to the board. It's also widgets that we can also include into your PDF report. So we've recently released a feature that allows you to print all of your dashboardings into a report. So that's also something you can bring in and make it a more formal reporting style. What we also have is the ability to categorize your observations by location. So over here, we can see that we have multiple locations in this particular plant, and we're able to see per location, for example, the construction site, we can see multiple observations have been recorded, and I can see how many unsafe situations, how many positive breaking life-saving rules have been recorded. And essentially, it will help me understand, okay, this is our most active site, which is probably the reason why we have more recordings. But then it could shine a light to you guys internally, whether it's your HC department or your operational managers, and which areas need more attention. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you can build for yourself versus what has been provided to you in the standard dashboarding. So those are the 2 differences between the KPI dashboard and the standard dashboard. The KPI dashboard essentially allows you to build a really great overview of all the data that's incoming into your organization. And your standard dashboarding essentially gives you a very simple, basic, high-level overview into the progress that the users in your organizations are making with the reports that they are logging. The next thing that we're going to look at is our detailed results overview. So it does happen that you might want to export your data into Excel and make further analysis and create dashboards outside the platform with that. We enable you to do that. And with that, you would need to make use of the filtering mechanisms that we have. So in clicking on the filter button, you're able to then pick a specific workflow. So again, I'm going to look at the observations. I already know that I want to extract the data from this particular workflow. And then what I then need to do is select the node within the workflow that I want to extract the data from. What this means is that in the workflow, you have many steps that need to be taken. And what we see these steps as are nodes. So I have my form template, that's a node. I have a review step, that's also a node. I have my KPI calculator, that's a node. And I have a report, and that's also a node. So you can only export data per node and per version. So already I know the title of my first form is observation, and I know that version 4 is the version of the form that is most utilized within this workflow with the most data. So I'll start with that one. So in a couple of seconds, I will see that I have all my data already in an Excel-like layout. Over here, I have the name of the workflow itself and the particular version. And also, just for context, so also the other reason why we split it by version is because it is possible that version 4 and 5 are slightly different from each other, whereas version 4 might have less question than version 5 because I've iterated on it. So that's also the reason why we're not able to export across multiple versions, because the layout, the questions could be different. So across the top, you will see that I have all the questions in the form itself. And along the bottom, I then have all the answers that are given. So already I have my Excel-like overview over here. And I'm able to also click into the data. So I'm able to view the files. I'm able to also see the KPIs that are then calculated from it. So already from the step, I'm able to export all 32 forms from version 4. And immediately I will then receive an email. Yeah. Alternatively, I'm also able to filter according to the type of observation as well. And over here, you saw that I clicked on type of observation, and I know that I have multiple different categories. And let's say I only just want to see the positive observations. That's also something I can do. So I can drill down using my KPIs, drill down to specific information and only export the relevant files, as you can see over here. So there's, quite a lot that you can do in terms of exporting. You can export all your workflows, and you're also able to, again, generate PDF reports should you wish to do so. And so that brings us to the end of today's webinar. And I hope it was an informative webinar for you all and have understood the differences between the different dashboards that we have on the platform, as well as how to access them across different personas.
Super. Thank you, Fikila. Thank you so much for the walkthrough. I think it was super insightful. With that being said, let's begin the question round. We do have a question that came in, which is maybe briefly see how to create a workflow.
Oh, the question is, can you briefly see how to create a workflow?
Perhaps a short demo, like a 1-minute demo or so.
Yes, sure. Let me share my screen again. Are you able to? Oh, it's sharing. Just to clarify so what I will do is, in the interest of time, I'll show you how to build a workflow. So considering that you already have a form already built, otherwise it might take us a bit longer to do so considering the time. So I am gonna build it from the perspective that I already do have my form already created, and I just want to combine my form into a process that I can then assign to multiple users in the organization. So I am now in my templates tab of the platform under workflows, and I can create a workflow name. So let me give it an actionable title. So report observation. I provide it with the name and I click submit. So we are now in the workflow builder. And of course, with any process, there's a start and then there's an end to it. And in between, we then need to build out the different steps. So as I mentioned before earlier in the webinar, we describe these different steps as nodes. So that's where the name comes from. So as the instructions indicate, we need to right-click on our mouse to add the different nodes. So I start a workflow. What do I want to happen next? I want a form to be launched. So right-click and I have all the different steps that I can add to my form. So I'm able to add in a fill a form node, generate report node. I have different form actions. So do I want a review step to be added, a review dismissal, autocomplete, submission overview. I have also asset related inputs that I can add. I have conditionals, conditions and formulas, sorry. So if this and that statements, formulas and KPIs, the for each node, which I can all go into detail a bit later. We have integration and triggers, and we also have task assignment. So building a very simple workflow with a start, fill in a form, report, and an end. I will then select a fill a form node. What I'll then do is let the system know. So immediately after the start, I want a form to be initiated. So I connect like colors together. So dark blue to dark blue. And then I need to select the form that I would like to be filled out. So I'll select my observation form from the list of forms that I already have built. And then I also need to let the system know who's responsible for completing this task. By default, I will select the initiator. So the same person that starts the workflow needs to then complete the form. If I would like for a different user to do so, there is something we can do that is called setting different role responsibilities. But that goes a bit further into it, so I can do so later if we have a bit more time. But initially, I can determine who I want to complete this form. The person starting the workflow, is it a different user in a team? That is also something I can determine. I can set a deadline. So we mentioned earlier in the webinar that we can set deadlines for specific tasks. And if it's late, it will show up with the late tag. So I can give it a deadline in hours, in days, in weeks, and months. For this example, we can just leave it as plain. And then the next thing that I would like for there to happen is that I want the observation to then be reviewed by someone. So I can add in review submissions. And this is likely the manager that needs to review to ensure that the data has been filled in correctly and that it can then be escalated to a relevant person within the organization. So we have the initiator who completes the form. The form gets reviewed to ensure that data has then been added sufficiently. And for this, I would want to add in a different role. So what I would do is click into the role responsibility. And by default, I have any user in a team. What this means is that any user in a team that I will create will be able to review this task. So I'll give them the title of the manager. And I will give them a description. Oh, sorry. And this is the manager that reviews all observations. We have different types, of course. It can be a specific user. So we can already determine who the specific user is. It can be every user in a team. It can be a trigger to initiate another workflow. Depending on what you would like the next action to be and the context of the workflow, you have options available to you. But in the context of this particular workflow, we will choose any user in a team and then close that. I'll then select the manager as the person who will review this form. Next to that, I would want there to be, for example, a follow-up action form that needs to be taken or that needs to be concluded. And again, I will add in another form task. Here, I will select my follow-up action form that I've already built, and I'll connect this to the end. So, of course, in order for this to make sense, we only need to have the follow-up action if there is an observation to follow up on. So what I will then include here is a conditional node to say, if there is a follow-up action that needs to be taken, then launch this follow-up form. If not, the workflow ends. So what I will do is add in a condition node. So now the conditional statement that I will, of course, set in this node depends on the questions that we'll have built in over here. So, sorry, I'm going a bit too fast. So what I need to do over here, I need to set the rule. So in what situation do we need the follow-up action to be launched? So that's what I'm essentially doing here. So I'm now looking into the form, and immediately I can see that has the situation been resolved? So if this answer equals no, it hasn't been resolved, I want there to be a follow-up action that is then initiate from this. If the situation has been resolved, then we can end the workflow, and that'll be the end of our workflow over here. And of course, same as before, I need to set a user that will complete the follow-up action. So let's say this is a completely different team in itself, and it is the HSE manager that needs to then complete the follow-up action. That is a role responsibility I need to set. So essentially, every single task that needs to be completed by a user in the system, you need to determine who that user is that needs to take that task. So with completing the observation, I have the initiator. Who's reviewing it? It's the manager. When does a follow-up action needs to be taken? When a situation has not been resolved, and we've added a conditional statement to determine that. And should the situation not be resolved, then I want the HSE manager to follow up on this action. When all has been said and done, I want the workflow to come to an end. In some cases, I would like for a report to be generated. And in order for that to happen, I would need to add in a report node. And because, this is essentially a workflow you can build to your own liking, I can have multiple reports generated. So I can have a report generated after an observation has been made, and I can have another one generated once a follow-up action has then taken place. So what I'll do, I delete that connector line, because immediately once a follow-up action is taken, I want a report to be generated. And like we did over here, I connect like colors to each other. What I need to do is give it a title, observation report. I need to determine which forms need to be added into this report. What I can do is customize settings. So if there's particular pieces of information that I do not want included in the final report, that is something that I can remove. For example, I don't need my KPIs printed in the final report, so I can remove that. The order of this is also not correct. So what I'll do is customize the order of the forms. I want my observation to come first, to be printed first, then my follow-up action at a later stage, well, right after. What I can do is customize the recipient. So who needs to receive the final PDF report? The person who filled out the form might be interested in receiving it, the manager as well, and the HSC manager could be. So let's just select all three of them. What I can do is I can also add in email recipients that do not have access to the platform. So if it's someone outside of the organization of Capptions itself, your organization that you've created, you can add in multiple recipients here as well, and they will receive the PDF report. What I then need to do is that I need to select my custom report. If I don't have a custom report selected, the default Capptions house style report will be automatically selected for you. And this is essentially the build of a workflow. So of course, context matters. It depends on what the situation is, what workflow you're building, who is involved in completing the steps within the workflow. But as a foundational level, this is generally a standard workflow process.
Thank you for that. Perhaps a follow-up on that itself is, can you also define your own, can you define KPIs yourself?
Yes, so it is possible to define KPIs yourself, and we can do that at various places, also depending on what the outcome is and the reason behind wanting to build your KPIs. So we can define them in the form. So as we can see in the observation form itself, we already have KPIs defined because we've stipulated which pieces of information are important for us to know. And this is the type of observation that's important for me to know, because later on I would like to build a dashboard around that, the severity of the observation, the location, and the person responsible for the follow-up action. So depending on what pieces of information are important for you to know, you can build KPIs around everything and anything.
Super, super. We'll take one more question due to time. The last one is, how do we make sure this workflow is started once a week? So on a schedule.
Back to my workflow. So we have built observation workflow, report and observation. I now need to, first of all, before setting a schedule, I need to publish it, so make it live. Oh, there's something I did not connect. There we go. Oh no. Sorry. Because this is a review step, this is something I missed. Because this is a review submission step, I need to make sure that all the data that has been logged or reported in this form is viewable by the manager that's in charge of reviewing it. So hence why I connected the response overview, the light blue node, with reviewing data. So good thing to note there is that you're not able to publish a form unless, or publish a report, sorry, a workflow, unless it's built properly. So now I have published a workflow. The next thing I need to do is to assign it to a team. So before I set a schedule against it, I need to let the system know who needs to complete this particular workflow. So I'll assign it to all members because everyone in the organization needs to be able to complete an observation. I need to then determine who the manager that's reviewing this observation is. So I can create a team manager and I can assign myself as first member. I need the HSE managers to be determined, so I can just assign that to the HSEQ team. And that will be the team that will then follow up on all observations. So they'll complete all the follow-up actions. What I can then do is assign the workflow to team all members. Under scheduled workflows is where you then are able to schedule your workflow on a recurring basis. So I'll click on the schedule button. I then need to let the system know which workflow that I need to schedule on a recurring basis. So report observation for all members, version 1 is the workflow we just assigned. I'll give it a name. And I will set a recurring rule. So we set on a weekly basis. So this is something we can do. We can schedule daily, weekly, monthly, on a yearly basis. And I don't need to define an end to it. And I can state that I want it to repeat every Monday. I save it. And next to that, I can optionally choose who's allowed to initiate this workflow. So the workflow will essentially be initiated under my name as a person who is now built it and determined that. So if I save it, I'm then able to determine the next execution date. So I can set it for October. That's the next Monday. When is the next Monday coming up? Oh, wait, September, for the last of the month. So I can say the next Monday that I want to initiate is the 6th of October at 6 a.m. I can set the schedule live, and I'll trust the system to initiate it every week on Tuesday. Oh, wait, excuse me, that was a mistake. But essentially, sorry, that was a minor mistake on my end. I was meant to set it on Monday. But essentially, you're able to determine the day in which it needs to be executed. Over here, you'll see that the next execution is on the 6th of October at 6 a.m. and it's assigned to all members.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Fikile, for walking us through everything and for answering the questions very well. And a big thank you to all of you for joining us today too. We do hope this gives you a clear picture of how Capptions helps turn raw data into actionable insights. This recording will be shared after the session. And if you have any follow-up questions, please do feel free to reach out to us directly. Thanks again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you at the next session. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.